Hey guys, Ryan here at Signature Edits, and in today's Lightroom tutorial, I want to show you a crazy Lightroom color grading feature that is hiding right underneath your nose. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to show you this really cool color grading secret that you have never used, or at least you probably have never even thought of using, but once you see it, you're going to be amazed. Now, for starters, it's not actually found in the color grading section of Lightroom. You can see the color grading panel, really cool. We can add a nice warm brown look to an image in about 2 seconds by adjusting the midtones, shadows, and highlights and adding color to those various ranges. You can watch my tutorial on this if you're interested, but that's not what we're going to focus on today. Because the thing about the color grading panel, as cool as it has some limitations. And the main limitations are just control. We can't really adjust what the midtones are affecting, what the shadows are affecting, and what the highlights are affecting. So what I mean by that is, yes, I can add some yellow to the highlights or some blue to the highlights. I can do whatever I want. I can adjust the amount of saturation of that color, choose what color I want, all that good stuff, but I can't control where the highlights are being adjusted. I can't control whether it's only applying to the very brightest parts of the image or to the top 25%, right? There's some other limitations too. I can't add other effects to just the highlights or other effects to just the shadows, that kind of thing. Well, this trick is going to let you do just that. So what I want you to do is go into Lightroom, grab any image you like. Really doesn't matter. If you want, you can head to signatureedits.com/free raw files or free raw photos. Go to signatureedits.com and I have some photos on there you can grab, or you can just grab any file you want. And I want you to make a radial mask. Now, one thing about the radial mask most people don't know is that you can actually use it, drag it right off the screen, invert it, and you're actually going to infect the entire screen. So you can see here, if I press the apostrophe key on my keyboard, it will invert that layer, and the O key will show us the overlay. I'm affecting the entire image by doing this. And what's really cool about this is, just like in the shadows, the highlights, and the midtones of our color grading panel, we can actually add color to this entire selection. So I can go down here to the color tool on this box, select any color I want, and add it to the entire image. Okay, Ryan, you might be saying, that's kind of cool, but how does that really compare to using the color grading panel? I don't really have a lot of flexibility. Well, that, dear sir, madame, is where you're wrong, because we can combine that with the range mask tool, and suddenly our lives are changed. So let's say I want to create a color grading example here with highlights, midtones, and shadows. I'm going to go to a range mask with luminance, set the range to just the highlights. So let's say anywhere from 68 to 100 in brightness. Smooth it out so it's really transparent what's being affected, what's not, and you're going to see I can dial in exactly what part of that image I want to add that color to, which is super handy. The other thing about this is we can also adjust the other areas of that image as well, just in the highlights. So if in the highlights I want to pull back and lower the contrast just in the highlight area, I can do that now using the range mask tool combined with all of these effects up here. I can then grab this brush here, radial mask, and we're going to duplicate it, drag it here just so it makes sense, and we're organized, and I'm going to switch the luminance mask so that now we're only affecting, you got it, the midtones. And so let's make the midtones, say, blue, just so we get some obvious separation here. We're going to make the smoothness lower so we can see exactly what's happening. So you can see really quickly and easily we can adjust exactly how much of this area we're adding color to. Not only that, if we want to, say, sharpen the midtones and make everything else more creamy, more kind of painterly, because the midtones is where our skin tones are living and where we've got a lot of detail. The highlights, we want to make that, creamier and less detailed. Well, grab the texture down and the clarity down and maybe even the dehaze down in the highlights, and we've made those highlights really creamy, really smooth. Same thing goes for our midtones. Let's get rid of this awful color cast. We'll say we want to warm it up, make kind of a brown effect. We'll smooth things out a little bit so the contrast, it's not so obvious where we're affecting and where we're not, so we'll add the smoothness back in there. And then this time in our midtones, we're going to add some texture, add some clarity, add some dehaze. Why not? So you can see, really quickly, we can create some amazing color grading effects that are far more advanced than what we could do in the color grading panel. Let's continue one more. I think you're getting the point. We're going to duplicate this, drag it down here, and this is going to be our shadows layer. So I'll grab my range mask, take that down, so now we're only affecting the darkest parts of the image. 0, which represents black, up to 29% brightness. Okay? Now I'm going to reset all of these effects we've made so far here. And let's say we just want the shadows to have a blue tint. Well, we can do that just with the temperature, maybe add some greens to the shadows. And then, of course, we can always go down here and actually add some color of our choosing. So let's add even more blue to the shadows. We'll make sure we really smooth this out so it blends in with the rest of the image. And sure, maybe we can make the shadows a little brighter, drop the contrast a bit. Now you see it's not perfect. The range mask is affecting more than just the shadows of this image. But if we play with it a little bit more, so we're only affecting the darkest areas, and we lower our smoothness so it's not affecting everything, we can kind of dial it in exactly where we want it. Now this particular edit, not an example of the perfect color grade, but I hope you're seeing just how powerful this is. We can add some really cool color casts. We can edit specific areas of the image, so just the brights, just the midtones, just the shadows, and we can do everything that the color grading panel can do, but so much more, because now all of a sudden we can actually grab these things and apply just a lowering contrast to the midtones and maybe dial back the highlights in the midtones, which seems kind of like a paradox of terms, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. So let's say this is the perfect color grade. In fact, let's go one step further. Let's make the perfect color grade. I'm going to just grab some orange, and we're going to do kind of a brown preset here. I'm going to reset all of the highlights as well. And we're just going to add... I find that a lot of really awesome edits I find are using kind of a yellowish green for the highlights. We're going to stick with that. I like warmer tones, that's just me. And then we're going to do one more with the shadows here. We'll reset that. And down in the shadows, we'll add some real nice reds. Okay, so here's before and here's after. We've added a really beautiful warm tone to this image. Now we can go ahead and actually save this as a preset. So if we go create preset, we can check none, except for our radial filters. Select the group you want to put it in. I'm just going to put it here so it's easy to find. We're going to call it Ryan's Warm Preset. Shebing. And now I can apply that color grade really quickly and easily. You're going to see that those radial filters are pasted on the image. Zoom out here so we can see where they are. Hello. Where are you hiding? If I zoom out, there they are. So depending whether it's a landscape or a portrait, it'll show up somewhere slightly off. The only thing you have to watch for with this technique is sometimes when you paste it, you can see on this particular image, the radial filters are still on top of the actual image, so we're just going to want to drag them off the screen. But really quickly and easily, you can go ahead, save these color grading presets, and have all of these really cool options that go a step further than what the actual color grading panel can do. So if this has been helpful, do me a huge favor. Can you hit that like button and leave me a comment below? It really helps me just reach more people, help more people, and get the word out there. So I'd appreciate that. So I hope by now you're seeing just how extremely cool this technique can be and how many options it opens up for you in terms of just additional creative things that you can do with your images. Because sometimes you just can't get the colors quite right in your photos, right? So you're going to go ahead and you edit things the way you want them, you warm it up, and you add some exposure, some contrast, dial back the highlights, raise the shadows, you know, you do whatever it is to get your image looking stunning. This is not an example of stunning, but whatever. You get your image looking the way you want, and at a certain point, it just becomes really hard to add much more to it without it looking way over-edited. Well, I found this is a really great technique to be able to just add a color cast quickly and simply. So we can grab this radial filter, we'll invert it so that we're affecting the entire image. Press O if you want to make sure that you are doing it properly. And then we'll grab whatever color we want, add that to the entire image so we can really warm things up quite easily. Or if you have a color cast in your image, so let's say that this image is kind of a little bit yellow, a little bit green, and just nothing else you're doing is getting rid of it. Well, the opposite of green on the color wheel is somewhere around magenta, purple. So you would add some magenta to the entire image and it would actually counter your color cast if you had a situation where you just couldn't fix it any other way. So this can be used both to fix things and to add creative colors to your images. So one thing we're going to do before we go any further with this technique is I'm going to just create a base blank template because I find that's really easy in just enhancing my workflow. So I'm going to grab this image because it's a portrait and it's just easier to work because I have more of this gray space. I'm going to create 3 radial masks and I'm going to invert each of them by pressing the apostrophe key so that they're all inverted. So I'm just going to duplicate that, duplicate it again, and then I'm going to apply my range mask to each of them. Same thing as we did before. Only this time I'm not going to apply any effects to any of them. I'm just going to leave them blank. So then later on, if I want to, I can just apply this to my image on an image by image basis, dial in whatever colors I want from scratch, and save the kind of added 30 seconds it takes to set this up. So now that I've got it, I'm going to go create preset. I'm going to call it blank radial grade. So now when I want to edit an image from scratch, just go in here, select blank radial grade, and all of these are ready to go. I can adjust my highlights. Shebang. Grab a mid-tone color. Go with that. You can see I really like warm colors. And just to mix it up, let's go with some kind of a, I don't know, aqua for the shadows. There, perfection. Absolute perfection. We can just stop right now. Hopefully you're seeing why that's handy though. Create a blank template and you can apply that and really just save yourself the time of having to go in there and create those radial masks with the luminance filters. Okay, so let's explore some different ideas for things we could do here. Let's grab an image, say is this one right here. Okay, so we're going to apply our blank radial grade. And if I zoom way out here, hello. Let's go 6%. There you are. Let's move these over here just so we can get to them easier. Maybe make a little more room on my little screen. This is what I get for editing on a 15-inch screen. Not enough room. Okay, so we're going to zoom back in. I want to be able to select these still. Have them up here. This is easy, trust me. Okay, that's what happens when you do a live video. So I've got all of those adjustments right here. Let's explore some different ideas. First off, if I want to, I could just maybe make the skin tones a little brighter and a little softer, maybe lower this saturation. Because sometimes your skin just needs to be desaturated and the HSL panel isn't doing the job completely, right? Or it's got a color cast and you want to kind of counteract that color cast. Well, we're going to grab our midtones and just make sure that that's what we're affecting here. You can see with our range mask, we want to dial that in and find out where our skin tones are landing. So we're just going to grab, drag it up. Looks like midtones are somewhere around here. That's where the skin is being highlighted. Okay. And I'm turning that on and off with the O key, remember? Now I can grab my exposure, bring that up just a little bit. Maybe my contrast down just a little bit. And my saturation down a lot of bit so you can see what's happening. So you can see I'm applying it to more than the skin tones. Well, that's not super helpful. It's a little helpful maybe, but in this situation, kind of not doing what I want it to do. Well, what else can I do? That's where you can change this range mask to a color mask. And this time we're just going to sample the skin with the eyedropper tool here. Now you can see that our range mask is only applying to the skin. So now we can add a specific color to the skin or just desaturate the skin or brighten the skin or make them look like Smurfs. Let's try that. That sounds fun. Let's make them look like Smurfs. Hello, dear Smurf. There you are. Perfect. And if you wish that people actually looked like avatars, well, hit the like button, leave me a comment below. So that's how you would do that. And you can see there's just a little bit more flexibility in terms of the specific areas you can adjust using this technique. So let's go ahead, let's enhance our Smurf Wonderland here. We're going to zoom out so I can grab maybe our shadows. Oh, I definitely color sampled by accident. Go away, color dropper tool. I'm happy the way I am. Okay, press enter, zoom back in. Now, let's press O, see where we're affecting. So this is our shadow zone, right? So we can do the same thing. Let's go with the color that enhances the purpleness of our avatars. Let's grab maybe a, I don't know, some kind of a purple. I like that. And now you can grab the saturation of that entire area, turn it down so that your color is more effective and pronounced. And then just make sure that your range is covering the entire area you want to focus on. So I want to get all of the greens, so we'll grab that, take it up. Perfect. Now we've got this lovely blue, purple, post-apocalyptic wasteland. It was just a great day out camping, and now something went terribly wrong. Okay, now we've got our highlights. What are we going to do here? Well, let's see what we're affecting first off. Looks like kind of everything. So instead, let's set this to color for the range mask. And let's see if we can make the tint a little bit less purple and a little bit more yellow. So I'm pressing O just to see what's being affected and not being affected. So now we're affecting basically this mid-tone tint type area. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to take the white balance up. I really want it to pop against their blue purple grape skin. And then we're going to grab a color over here. Just see what feels right. Green. Green feels right. Okay. So I dare you to do that in the color grading panel, right? Before, after. And if you want this preset, I'll sell it. Just request it in the comments. So hopefully you can see there's some really cool things we can do and adjust specific areas here. Let's take a look at a couple more images, just some different ideas we could do. Okay, this particular photo, we've got some highlights here that are kind of being blown out a little bit. Well, why don't we grab our color grading blank template here. Swing, blank radial grade. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead here. and make sure that my highlights are only affecting the very brightest parts of the image. So press O, dial that range all the way to the top. I only want to affect the brightest parts. And we can take the smoothness down. That'll help dial that in too. Okay, now we're just affecting the brightest parts of the image. And I want to grab my highlights and roll them back. Okay, so now I've rolled back the highlights on these bright areas of the image, but we haven't affected the highlights on our subject here, which is really cool because it keeps the contrast on the subject looking natural and beautiful. We're not affecting their skin at all. We're just affecting this bright wall that was really blown out. We could grab the exposure, pull it back. We could do all sorts of things. We could maybe cool it down or warm it up, just depending on what the image needs, but addressing and color grading specific areas of the image instead of just a generic, here's your highlights, here's your midtones, here's your shadows. Okay, so if this has been helpful, please again hit that like button. If you haven't yet, leave me a comment below, even if it's just a thing saying, hi, this was good, this was bad, I love your voice, I think that you sound like an angel, or I think that you sound like a, I don't know, a bear. I would appreciate it. Otherwise, I guess I'll just have to live without, because if you haven't by now, then that's just too bad. But that's okay. I love you. Anyways, go create something awesome. Hope this video was helpful. See you in the next video. Download the presets. We're going to end the intro eventually here. Peace.